All right. Welcome, everyone. Um, did my camera freeze? You guys let me know in the chat if my camera froze. It looks like it did on OBS. Not really sure what's happening there, but um, anyway, I'm going to switch over just in case to my screen, just so we don't think the stream is broken. Um, why is it doing that? All right. Is that better? Okay. Sorry about that. We are, um, I had this crazy idea, and I haven't made any videos anytime recently on programming or adding anything like that. And um, I thought maybe what I would do is something different than I've ever done. And I started thinking, what could I do that other YouTubers aren't doing? Because frankly, me just trying to create videos teaching beginners how to program, there's a lot of good channels out there, and they do a better job making the videos. They're better speakers than I am, and um, and because of that, it's hard for me to be motivated to create videos because I'm just another dude, out there making programming videos. So I started thinking about when I was new to development, what would have been helpful to me? What would I have wanted more than just a normal tutorial? Of course, normal tutorials are great. I don't want to replace those. I've got a lot here on my channel. But what I thought would be cool is what if I had this idea, like, what if you could sit with a professional developer and just sit next to him and watch them work and build out a project? And I started thinking, I got a personal project that I want to build on my own time outside of work. And I thought, you know what? I think it'd be cooler if we did it together. What if I build a project? You guys come along for the journey as often as you want to. If you want to stay for 30 minutes and you learn something and you don't want to stay the whole time, that's great. I hope you get something out of it. If you want to uh, follow along for the entire series, that's awesome too. I think you'll learn a ton. But what I want to do, most of the time when you have a tutorial series, the developer knows ahead of time what they're going to be teaching you. They have gone through all the code ahead of time. They've worked out all their issues. They've worked out all the bugs. They've fine-tuned it, and now it's ready to be presented. The problem that I have with this approach is that you end up learning to just copy and paste code that they show you that as they're typing it out, and you don't really learn, in my opinion, how to be a successful developer. I think the biggest downfall, I think you do need that as part of your learning experience, but the biggest downfall is there's no one that shows you the struggles. There's no one that shows you how to solve bugs, how to struggle through looking stuff up when you can't remember everything. Everybody just has like a complete project, and then they just copy the project over themselves and you follow along. And so I wanted to do something quite a bit different from that. So the project that I want to build is I want to build two distinct projects. Number one, a front-end application that's a standalone front-end single page application running on React. And then I want to build an API in PHP using MySQL. And I want it to be lightweight. And I want to build a project. So at my house, myself and my sons, we collect things. I like to collect old retro video games. You can often find them super cheap at yard sales and things like that. And I'm old and I like old games. So when I come across them, I like to buy them. But the problem is, I don't know what I already have. And sometimes I end up buying multiple copies of something, and I have to try to sell it or whatever. And so what I want to do is I want to build something I'm calling Memorbility, which is a made-up word, but I found a domain for it, so pretty happy with that. So what I want to do is build a project to basically track the things that I've collected and tag those. So if I'm collecting a NES game, I can build it. I can put down all the titles that I have for that. For example, like Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers 3, and then I can tag those as NES. And then later, I should be able to search Super Mario Brothers and see all the games that I have that in the title, regardless if it's on NES or Super NES or whatever. But I can filter down by tags, and so I don't think the overall project's going to be that complicated, but it's a full project, and I plan on just taking you guys on the journey with me. And we'll build out everything. We'll do everything from local development to pushing this thing out to a live server. If you guys want to see that, I'll build out a live server, maybe on DigitalOcean or something, and we'll push our code there, and we'll install everything from scratch on there, Apache. We'll do the configuration files and all of that together. I think that'd be super cool, and I know that would have been helpful to me when I was a new developer. And so I'm just going to double check my live streams here, make sure they're up and running, um, just to make sure I'm not lagging behind here. Um, did Rumble already quit? No, I think we're good. Okay. Um, so we're good on YouTube. We're good on Rumble. Just as a clarification on Rumble, I have been streaming Morrowind. If you're here hoping to see Morrowind, that's not what we're doing. We're going to be doing some software development. I will be back on the Morrowind stream, probably even later today, just to play with that. So without any further ado, I'm going to switch over to my screen and kind of show you guys what I've got so far. I have just a blank screen that says "Hello World," which is nothing. What my development environment is going to be, a home is going to be Docker. I'm using Docker and Docker Compose. Here's my Docker Compose file. We have a couple different services here. We have the web service, which is going to be an Apache PHP web service, and I can show you that Docker file as well. So here's the Docker file. It's basically setting up PHP, and then I'm installing a bunch of extensions. I'm getting Composer installed. Down here is setting up NVM and installing Node and NPM, and then just going ahead and getting a few more extensions installed down here, and that's the Docker file. So we're going to be using PHP 8.1. And then we have an image for MySQL, MySQL, and we're using, I believe, 8.0 on that, maybe 8.1. I'm not really sure. I could look at it in a second. I do have a service running for PHP MyAdmin, and I can show you that running on port 8080. If I go to a browser and navigate to port 8080, here is PHP MyAdmin. However, I'll likely be doing most of my database admin work inside of dbeaver. I do prefer dbeaver over PHP MyAdmin because it has some features that I like both, honestly. Like, I first learned on PHP MyAdmin, but I do prefer, once you learn it, I do prefer having a little flexibility with dbeaver. Okay, and as far as that goes, I have a database set up called Memorbility, but I have no tables or views or anything built out in that. We're going to do all of that together. I'm going to build out migration scripts in order to do that. And so the way that this Docker container works is everything that's inside this source container gets put into the /, and you can see it here. Everything in source goes to var www HTML inside of the Docker container for Apache. So what we're going to do is use some virtualization, and we're going to put a front end and an API folder inside of source, and we're going to have two separate projects running in the same Apache server for local. We'll probably do the same thing for the live uh, Apache setup. But yeah, that's how it's going to work. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to kind of off screen here over here where you guys can't see. I'm going to set up a couple repositories and we are going to create our projects. So first and foremost, I'm going to explain what I'm doing right now. I'm going to, I guess I'm going to host this on, you know what, I'm going to host this on BuddyWorks, I think. You guys haven't heard of BuddyWorks? Let me show that to you real quick. This is pretty cool. BuddyWorks lets you do, I think, 5 projects on here for free. And what's cool about it is you can host your files here, just like GitHub or Bitbucket. But it also has some built-in CI/CD stuff for deployments, so that you can easily deploy your code to different environments and things like that. And it's really slick. You do have to pay if you start doing more, like, let's see. So you can have one login and one runner running at a time. I thought it limited you on how many projects you could have, but one seat, one runner. Not sure, but yeah, you could go to the Pro and Hyper and have more logins and things like that. But you know, uh, for what I'm doing, the free one's plenty good. So I'm gonna set up a couple projects on that. And what the heck, I will go ahead and drag that over here. You guys can see this. Not doing anything here that you shouldn't see anything sensitive or anything like that. So I'm going to create a project here and I'm going to call this, let's call this Memorbility, and it'll be Memorbility API. So I'm going to create a new project and then I'm going to grab the SSH here and copy that. Hopefully I have some SSH keys already set up. But what we're going to do is inside here, I'm going to cd into source and let's go in ls. I'm going to go ahead and delete index.php here. And I'm going to make a directory called API. And then I'm going to get init. And now this initialized an empty repository. The next thing that I'm going to do is let's do get remote add. So I don't do this very often. Origin. And then I'm going to paste in that key there. Okay, so I think we're set up there. Just to test this, let's go ahead and do, let's create, well, we can do this in the editor. So if I go here, I'm gonna right click on this and add a new file. And let's add a getignore file here. And we are going to ignore .env files. We're going to ignore quite a bit of stuff actually, but I'm going to ignore the .idea directory because that's what my IDE, I'm using IntelliJ here. We'll do, we'll grab a list, but we're going to need to ignore vendor, which is what Composer is going to stick all of our Composer stuff into. Let's see. And then Amir says, hey man, it's great to see you. Yeah, man, thanks. It's good to be back. yeah, so we're just figure out, I'm gonna build a personal project, and since I haven't done anything in a while, figure I'd let you guys join in on the fun. All right, so we'll add more to this later, but for now, I just want to make sure these things are being get ignored. Um, so let's go ahead and push this now. So if I do a git status, um, yeah, do a git add. We'll just commit this as the initial commit. Okay, so I haven't set up my git email and username and stuff. I don't want to share that with you guys. One second, let me put that in just really quick. This is a new machine here that I installed. Um, and so it, like nothing is like set up at all. All right, back. Git commit initial commit. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and do a git push -u origin master. All right, so yeah, it's complaining that I don't have access to Buddy, which means I need to set up an SSH key really quick. Actually, I'm gonna check something really fast off screen. Sorry, I'm not gonna try to do much of this stuff off screen, but I do have a few sensitive things that I don't want you guys to see, like my SSH keys and stuff. So one second here while I check that. Let's see. That's my dog. My dog is okay. I think what I need to do to make this work is I think I need to do git remote I need to change this origin, and I think it just needs to be git remote set URL, I think it is, origin, and let's see, I'm going to paste this, but instead of just hitting enter, I think I have, instead of doing this, I have a config set up, so I'm going to replace this with buddy personal git remote -v. All right, so let's try this again with the git push -u origin master. Okay, so let's go see if that worked. If I go here to my buddy account now, we look in here, you can see that now we have our git ignore. All right, good. I am satisfied that we have buddy set up now, which is what I'm using for git on here, just for fun, just to show you guys something different other than GitHub and all that. So there are plenty of different Amir's calling me out. He's saying, I can remember about your Laravel course. Yeah, I was supposed to do a Laravel course. I work with Laravel a lot during my day job. At least I have for like the last year with the current job I'm working at. Honestly, I just don't like Laravel that much, and I'm having a hard time being motivated to put that together. So yeah, I will eventually do something with that. Sorry about that. Amir asked, can I ask if you're also using Chat GPT in your day-to-day work? It's a really good question. Um, I tried not Chat GPT, but I did start using uh, GitHub's Copilot, which is the same thing basically, just AI helping you autocomplete code and stuff like that. It's really powerful. It did start to annoy me a little bit. I do think that it sped me up some, especially when I was working with languages or something that I wasn't 100% familiar with. It did help me to not have to look so many things up. But ultimately, I uninstalled it and went back to not using it. Uh, Primarily because I just don't like how that all went down with GitHub selling the company and then they using everyone's code that they've been putting on their site for good out of good faith, that their code is private, and then they use machine learning to read through everyone's code, and that is how they're able to understand how to suggest code to people. And so just kind of for a moral standpoint, I felt dirty using it. Not against anyone else who wants to use it. I understand that it can be a very much help with production and productivity, and it can actually be kind of fun too. Um, I just I just didn't want to do it. I may go back to it at some point. I'll probably keep trying it here and there just to see how it's doing and how it's advancing. I used it for about 6 months, and I was just kind of done with it. Also, there had a small annoyance to me, and I know that this is easily fixed, but when I would use it inside of like IntelliJ, um, if you hit tab, it auto completes probably an entire file when you start typing out a few lines of code. But I didn't like that. I mean, I wish I would have just mapped it to a different key configuration like Shift Tab, because there were times that I would hit Tab before it even showed me the code it was suggesting, and it would still mess up my code I had already written by inserting a bunch of code that I didn't intend to insert. And so I got mad one day and uninstalled it. So the morality of it, I always felt weird about using it, and then um, it also kind of annoyed me from day to day with my IntelliJ install here. Sorry about my dog. I'll probably take a second in a little bit to take her outside so that she's not annoying you guys. We got a new dog. My old dog died, and several months later we got a new dog, and she was abused. She's missing an eye, and she was like really skinny, but she doesn't have any manners yet. We haven't had a lot of time to train her. She's a sweet dog, but she's just kind of annoying right now until we can get her settled down. All right. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to use Slim for the framework. Slim, if you haven't used it, is a really super lightweight PHP framework, and I think I compare it most to Node.js Express. So all this pretty much handles is your input, your request, and your response, and it has a few different things like defining your routes and just a couple little things to help you get your project started. But it's very bare bones, and it's going to force us to write most of our code by hand, but also it doesn't come with a lot of bloat, and it's super fast. So like the problem with Laravel, uh, the reason that I struggle with Laravel is it's like really, really fast development wise for a team that needs to do a lot of small projects. But if you have an intensive project that's going to get a lot of traffic, or you only need a small bit of code, it's pretty bloated, and it's one of the slowest frameworks available for PHP. And I'm a big fan of what the work they've done, and there's some of their stuff I rip off from Laravel because they have great developers. The code's super clean. I have nothing bad to say about Laravel. But if you're gonna build out your own project, it's important, I think, to love the way that you're doing the code, um, so that you want to keep maintaining it. But in this case, we're just building an API, so we don't need a lot of stuff that comes with Laravel. And I want to control like the user login stuff and all of that. I want to control myself and write myself, just so I have 100% control and understanding over what's going on with the code. So what I'm opting to do with this project is I'm going to use Slim, and then we're not going to use an ORM or anything like that. We're going to roll our own database connections and everything like that. That will ultimately be the fastest. That will be the fastest that you can do. So first name, last name says, "Hey man, you are very cool. Glory to Ukraine." Well, thank you for the compliment. I don't know how, I mean, I'm not very cool, honestly, but I'm actually a pretty boring person. But anyway, I hope you get something out of these live streams. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and install Slim here. And so we have, just going to go through their installation process here together. So I'm going to copy this, and then what we need to do is inside of Docker, let me open up another deal here. If I do a Docker PS, you can see my containers that are running. I have the web container, phpMyAdmin, and MySQL. So we need to SSH into or tunnel into our web container. Inside there, I have Composer installed, and I also have npm installed. So it's going to be best to do it from inside there. So I'm going to do docker exec -it memorability -web, and then we're going to run bash inside of that. So we have, crap, I spelled memorability wrong. How do I expect anyone to get the domain right if I can't? So right here we have, you can see now that we are SSH'd into it. We are a user called dev. This is the container ID. If you look, that matches right there. And you can see the working directory we're in is var www html. So what I want to do is actually go into API, and if we do an ls here, or if we do ls-la, you can see that we have our get ignore there. But from here, we'll go ahead and paste in composer require. And that's it. So now we have, if we do an ls, we will have our vendor directory. And I just want to double check my get ignore, make sure we're good there. Yeah. So it did add our composer JSON and lock file, but not our vendor directory. So that means we have the get ignore files set up correctly. We do not want to push all of these libraries and stuff like that. Although this will be a small installation, I don't want to do too much there. The next thing that we want to do, let's just kind of follow along here. Okay, so we get to make a decision here. What sort of PSR7 implementation we want to do. We can use Guzzle. There's a few other ones. I'm just going to use Slim's PSR7 here. So we'll go ahead and also run that. All right. And then we need to create a directory inside the public folder. And we can just copy this for here. We will be doing a lot of work on this because this is pretty bare bones. But so inside the API here, we'll create a new directory. We're going to call that public. And inside of there, we're going to create a new file called index.php. Sure. And then we'll paste in this. So let's save that now. Now this is not going to work except for a little bit. If we go to localhost /public, that doesn't work. Let's see, index.php. So we got some issues here that we have to solve in order to make this work. Let me see. Okay, so right now what's happening is we don't have the correct setup for this to run directly through the public. Oh, you know what? Also, it has to be API. Okay. HTTP not found exception. Okay. So maybe we missed a step here. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to set up some. Let's see it. Let me go back here. Routing middleware. Vendor auto load. Yeah, let's grab this code and try it off of here. Instead of this. This may not work either, but that's okay. Okay, it did work. Great. I know it doesn't look like this works, but this is actually a slim exception, and it's we don't have any routing set up. So I'm pretty happy that it actually looks like this, so that's a good thing. Okay, so now that we have kind of a starting point to the application, what I don't want to do is I don't like this route, and so I don't want to have to go to public or anything like that. So what we're going to do is set up a little bit of trying to think if there's anything in my, let me double check my, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Hopefully there's nothing in here you guys shouldn't see. We are going to sudo nano /host etc /host. Now I'm on Linux here. So what I'm going to do is set up a couple of domains that we can use for this. So for 127.0.0.1, let's set up memorability and we're going to do .dev for our, or maybe we'll do .local, and then we'll do, let's do API dot memorability dot local. Okay, so memorability.local and API.memorability.local are going to be some domains that we can use for this. So I'm going to save this, we'll close that down, and then let's go into the dev folder for PHP 8.1, and in here I have a virtual host set up, and so let's see. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to get rid of some of these comments inside of here. Let's just make this a little more slimline. So for port 80, let's do the domain. Well, we can leave this. It was memorability memorability dot local and API dot memorability local. So for the document root here, that lives inside API, but we also want that to go inside the public directory. So let's test this. Oh, I need to also set API there. Okay. Yeah, let's test this. So in order to test that, let's just do docker compose down. It's probably a better way to do this too, but docker compose up -d. Okay, so we should be able to still go here and hit that, and that's just fine. But we should also be able to go to api.memorability.local. Let's see, that's forbidden. Memorability.local. Why does it think that's directory, document root, API public? Might need to okay, why is this not working? Let's you know, some of my favorite documentation on the internet for building server stuff is DigitalOcean. So how to install Apache PHP on Ubuntu 2204. And DigitalOcean comes up here. I'm going to look in here. They have wonderful documents. But they also, I think in here, there we go. Okay, so I may have, let's see, it looks like I did this wrong. So I'm going to copy that piece. So let's put this back on star, and then right. Whoa. Okay. So server name, this is going to be api.memorability.local. API memorability.local. Okay. Document root. So we shouldn't have the trailing slash there. So I'll go ahead and remove that. Save that. Let's restart one more time. There we go. Okay, so I just had some misconfigurations there. So now api.memorability, it leads us to that same file inside public. So now this is kind of set up the way that we want it to continue on. First name, last name says, my problem is that I'm very modest. Thank God I found you. Explain it very well. Thank you, brother, for what you do. Yeah. Well, thank you. You know, I think the longer you do this, the more you know that you don't know. And when you're new to development, oftentimes people get kind of cocky. They mainly out of insecurity, I think, but we want people to think that we know what we're doing. And I think the longer I've done it anyway, I just kind of realized that like this is like an ever-changing industry, and like you're never done learning. Like I still take tutorials today, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time. So, um, yeah, you're never done learning, which is one thing that's appealing to me because I get bored easily. So jobs that I've had that, you know, if I knew how to do the job immediately, I was just kind of done with it. I didn't want to keep doing it, but this has held my attention for a very long time. I started my journey learning development seriously in 2008. I started much before that with some HTML and stuff like that, but I didn't start like PHP and all of that kind of stuff until 2008. So I've been doing this for quite a while, but anyway, uh, all right. So we have, I think, Slim set up for now. There's a few other things that I want to install while we're installing stuff on the API. One of those being, let's go to Composer, and let's search for, there's a package I want to find called .env. Yeah, this vlucas.env, it's super popular, 331 million downloads. We're going to use this to define our env stuff. So let's go ahead and load this. So composer require vlucas.env. So again, we can go to our tunnel here. Let me just clear that out. All right, so now we have .env installed. The other thing I would say is now what we can do to check to see if this is set up is let's go ahead and just finish that. So I'm going to set inside the API here, I'm going to create a new file called .env, and let's just let's do app env for environment, and we're going to set this to local. Okay, and then what I want to be able to do is we're going to load that here on this index page and see if we have access to it. So let's go back to their documentation. Yeah, so here's where they say load, there's a safe load. I like the, where's it at? There is create immutable. I'm gonna probably use this to load this. So I'll copy that, and then up here, maybe right below this auto load, we're gonna try to load in our env variables. And our directory for this, let's see, if we're in public, we need to back up a directory. So let's do that. See if that works. And then what we'll do is let's just var dump our underscore server, and we'll just kill the page there. So we'll go back here now and refresh. So .env is not found. Okay. Use let's see. Wait, .env. It should be loaded. Let's find out. Vendor. Wait, did this fail? Is that in the wrong place? What the heck? Oh man. Yeah, I was in the wrong place. So, um, let me, first of all, let me just delete this stuff out of here. I was in the wrong directory when I ran that. See, this is why I wanted to do this live, because I think you guys get this idea that you have to be perfect as developers, that you're not gonna make mistakes and things like that. And I think it's important to understand that like every single developer has to look stuff up. Every single developer makes mistakes. Every single developer, out there, like it's just impossible to remember everything. And I think when we go to job interviews and things like that, um, we often put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to like do everything without documentation and things like that. And you know, that's just bad news. It's just not reality. I mean, any job that would require you to do that, first of all, they're not being very efficient. Um, and so, it's just like, it's just dumb. So don't buy into that crap. And I think that happens a lot because, people who teach this stuff, they don't want to be fumbling around. And so um, they don't want to be fumbling around. So they get all these issues figured out ahead of time. And then like what happens is you guys come and watch it and you watch people who seemingly look perfect at development. And that's just not reality. But anyway, we are var dumping this to the screen, and you can see that we have this app environment of local set now, and that is coming from our .env file. So we know that that is up and running correctly, so I'm very happy with that. So we will just get rid of that now, and this should give us the slim 404 not found. Perfect. Okay, feeling good about that. We are going to continue on with this, but what I'd like to do, I think also while we're here, is let's get our front end React app set up too. And that way we can kind of work on stuff in tandem. We'll get that set up and get our server configuration working for that as well. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to use Vite in order to uh, build. I like Vite more than Webpack just because it's easier and it's fast, and it's a pretty cool project. So um, one thing we can do is npm create Vite. There's a script we can use to create it. So what we're going to do now is inside of our tunnel here, I'm going to clear this. And now instead of being in the API, we're going to back up and go to our front end directory, which we haven't created yet. So let's just back up and let's create a front end repository now. So make dir front end. And if we ls, now we have API and front end inside of our source directories. So let's go into that. And then we're going to do, we'll create one more repository. So let's git init this. Okay, and then I'm going to go over to Buddy, and I'm going to set up one more project. Hang with me. Oh no. They're making me one second, guys. Yeah, it looks like you have a maximum of 5 projects while you are working on this. So let me go and delete one real quick. I don't need these, all of these anyway. All right, now I should be able to add a new one. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing, but memorability, front end. Okay, now I have that. So let's go ahead and set up our get remote add origin. We'll paste this in, and I'm going to replace the host here because I have two buddy SSH keys basically. All right, so now that we've done that, let's add a get ignore. Actually, we're not going to add a get ignore just yet. Let's go ahead and inside of here, let's try to run. Actually, am I not tunneled in? I'm not tunneled in. So let's do docker ps and let's tunnel into docker exec -it, and we'll grab this container ID right here. All right, so I'm going to go into the front end directory, and now we should be able to use vite so it's vite, I'm sorry, npm create, and it's vite at latest. And then we need to give it we need to tell it like what we're going to build. So we're going to use a template. So -- template. I think we might have to do two dashes here. So -- space -- template, and this will be React. And actually I need to tell it a project name. So after latest, right here, we're just going to give it a dot to put it inside of our current working directory. npm not found, what? Why would that be? I know we installed npm. Huh. Okay. Let's yeah, I guess we're gonna have to debug this. So it made it through this, so it should have installed it in user local nvm. So let's look at that. cd user local cd nvm. Yeah, it's here. Okay. I think I know what's going on. I think we need to set up a bash alias for this. User local cd. Dang it. What did I do wrong here? Yeah, we have it installed right here. So I might have a problem with my compose file. I don't want to make you guys watch me fix that. However, we should be able to get this working. Let's look at the root. If we log in, let's see. Let's exit this. I think you can do a -u root. Yeah, now we're logged in as root. So now I should be able to cd to home directory, cd, I'll do an ls-la, and let's look at our that bash rc file. Yeah, so it put all this as a root user. I don't want to be logged in as root when I'm doing this. So I'm actually just going to copy this, and then let's exit and let's get back into our user, and then we will cd to our home directory and then nano.bash rc. Okay, so down here at the bottom, we'll paste this. There should be more. It should have added an npm alias as well, but anyway, save that. And now let's just try to do nvm list remote. Actually, we're gonna have to source.bash rc and then nvm nvm list remote. Okay, so nvm works like that. It may be easier just to do, maybe not. So npm, let's try this, npm v now. Okay, all right, so we're good. Let's go back to var dub HTML front end, and now let's do npm v at latest. Was that it, or was it had npm create v at latest? Create vt at latest, and then we'll do a dot for the name of our project, and then we'll do dash dash template react. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Okay, let's try that. Yes. Done. Now run npm install and npm run dev. So let's do what that tells us. I'm glad this worked. A lot of times out in my office, when I'm connected to my router out here, for whatever, I have kind of a cheaper router, and every now and then, like when I try to run anything that connects to an IPv6 thing, my router just won't do it, which includes the registry for npm. So if I run npm run dev now, we should be able to go to localhost 5173. Localhost. Now this isn't going to work actually, and I'll tell you why. So that refused to connect, and the reason that that refused to connect is because in our Docker Compose here, for our ports, we have a port from 80 going to 80, but we don't have a port opened up for 5173. So we're going to need to add that. So let's just do port 5173 and open that on port 5173. We'll save that, and I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we're going to Docker Compose down. Docker Compose up -d, and let's go ahead and get back in. Well, if you know the name of your container, you don't have to use the container ID. So ability dash web. Dang it. I don't know either one of them, I guess, or I can't spell it. So this now has a new container ID because we reloaded it. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'll paste in that new. All right, so now we can go to the front end, and we will do npm run dev. No. Super, super, super annoying. Don't want to do this, but until I fix that compose file, let's do it like this. If I do that, it's going to create all the files en route. Oh, the frustrations of being a developer. So let's just cat our bash rc file, and I'm going to copy this little bit here that we need, and we will exit that. Now we'll log in as dev, cd, and do nano dash bash rc. So I'm thinking what happened, it didn't save this. Yeah, so it's not saving this bash rc file after we reboot the machine. So I'll definitely need to fix this, which I will, but yeah. So let's do that, and then we need to source.bash rc. Now if we go to var www html front end, I'm just going to clear that. Now we can do npm run dev. All right, so this has got this up on 5173. So let's see if we can get to there now. Can't. Why not? Localhost 5173. would that not work? I'm curious if we ran this. I don't know if I have Node, but let's exit here. And let me try npm run dev from here. That started on 5174. Wonder why. Okay. So we run it outside of the container. It runs. So this is the default React application running. I don't like running it locally on my local npm, so I will solve that issue as well before the next video, and I'll explain it, because that's going to be like really digging in, and I think it'd be super boring to watch me try to stumble through that. I mean, that's not something I do very often. I kind of just set up, you know, a couple projects here and there. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. All right, so other than my Docker Compose stuff, I'm satisfied that we have a React environment up and we have Slim working. So let's, one thing I want to do is, I'm going to go ahead and push my changes up to the repo. Did this add get ignore? It did add a get ignore. So let's see what Vite added in our get ignore here. So if I close API and open front end, we have a get ignore file. So they're ignoring logs, node modules, distribution. I better add this to the other one too, just in case. Well, I'm not on Mac, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, this looks pretty good. The one thing I want to add to this is .env. We don't want .env files getting pushed into our code base, because there's going to be sensitive information in there. So before we get too far along, let's add that to the get ignore. And then let's go ahead and push this. So let's get status. Let's do a get add, get commit, and we'll just do initial commit. And then we're going to get push -u origin master. Okay, so I'm just going to double check Buddy and make sure we have code there now. And we do, if you want to see that. Here is the code for the Memorbility front end right there. Awesome. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. So let's see, how long have we been streaming? An hour and 12 minutes. You guys let me know in the chat. Are you guys getting tired? You wanna stop developing, or should I keep going for a while? You guys let me know. If you want to come back and just do shorter sessions. I mean, ultimately, it probably doesn't matter what you guys want to do, because, you know, ultimately, I've got to build this, and you guys are just going to either watch or not watch. So either way is fine with me. So I'm not too bummed out about this being on the wrong port or anything like that for now. We will fix that before we get too far along. All right. Okay. So what do we want to work on first? I think what I want to do possibly is we need to start building some database tables. However, in order to build a database table, I want to do it with migrations. In my Rua course, I created some classes, and this is really what I love about object-oriented programming, is we can just rob some of that code from there and make it work for us without too much hassle. So I think we'll end up doing that. But let's go ahead and just kind of start looking at our API. So we got React up and running. Our API is, I want to have, basically, I want to have, let's see, a directory that we're going to call app. And inside this app directory, we're going to have some directories. I want to do an MVC, so we'll do controllers. Let's do another one called models. We don't really need views, but we'll add one for views in case we start sending emails, because I think we'll do a more traditional view. If we send emails from this, we'll store our email templates as a view. And then let's add a directory for providers. Inside of our API as well, I want to add, let's see, let's add a new directory called DB. And inside of DB, we're going to add a directory called migrations. Yep. So app, we got controllers, models. Also inside of here, let's add a directory called core. And I'm gonna, inside of core, I'm gonna put some of our core classes that we need for like our database connections and that sort of thing. We'll put that inside of core. It's just the way that I want to structure that. And then we'll create inside the app as well. Let's create a directory for controllers, cores, models, providers. Let's do, I'm trying to decide if I want to put routes inside of the app or if I want to put the routes directory in the root directory. Oh well. Let's see, controllers, core, models, providers, views. We could add helpers here, but I think I want helpers to be not part, well, yeah, that is part of the application. So let's do helpers. And we'll add more as we need. For now, I think this is good. But let's go ahead and in our core, let's add a new file, and we'll call this file db.php. Okay. And then I'm going to copy from my Rua thing. I'm going to copy that database class. We'll paste that in. We'll end up making some changes to this. We need to set a proper, well, first of all, I called this db. Let's rename this file first of all. We also need to get where did my, oh, there it is. Let's rename this db. Okay, the namespace on this is going to be app core, not core. App core, yep. And then we'll just save that. I'm also going to add a file, and we'll call that model.php. I'm going to copy that as well from my framework. Let's see. And this will also have a namespace of app core. We're gonna change the way that we do the get DB stuff probably, because we're gonna set up our database instance, or the way that the database is constructed. We're gonna set that up as a provider, because that's kind of the way Slim does it. It's like a dependency injection thing. So we'll set up a dependency injector that will construct this. So we'll change the database stuff a little bit later as part of that. We won't need to change too much on this though, actually. Just basically, when we're constructing the database, where is it storing it? So instead of storing it as like a property on the database class as a singleton, it'll get stored as a singleton inside of the dependency injector as a provider here. So let's go ahead and see if we can, user guide, dependency container. Yeah. So this allows us to set our container up. There are other ways of doing this. Not sure if I want to follow this exactly. Well, I know I don't want to. I don't really like, and I don't like this with Express.js either, but I don't really like how like the documentation kind of shows to put everything in this PHP file. I'd rather build like a factory that grabs all of my providers and just builds them and adds them to the application. So that's what we'll do there. Let's see. I don't know if they have an example of. Let's see. Let's see if we can look that up. We don't need this open anymore. We don't need that. Let's look up Slim for provider class. App container. I don't like this too much. I'm trying to think, I just set up a project using this, and there was some documentation that wasn't part of their official documentation, that I found helpful for setting up this stuff. DI container. Because all of this is like basically setting this stuff up as like a callback function. Container build. It'll be easier to explain what I want to do different than this, like once I do it. Let's just see if we can figure it out. So let's build inside of our providers, let's build a class, And we'll call this the provider factory. And let's give this a namespace of app providers. And then this will be a class provider factory. And inside of here, I'm going to create a public static function. We'll call this build. Okay, and then what I want to be able to do is inside this build method for every provider. So like here, let's create a new file. I'll show you what I mean. I want to create a dbprovider.php file, and the sole purpose of this file will be to instantiate the database and add it to the dependency injector so that's available everywhere in the application. So again, we'll give this a namespace of app providers, and then let's see, here we'll have a class, and this will be db provider. Trying to think if we should extend these providers. For now, we'll just do db provider, and then public function. Let's see. We might just be able to do this in the constructor. I always get confused if it's like constructor or construct, because I get JavaScript and PHP mixed up on that. So this will take an app. We'll pass in the current application, and then we will return that application as well. So I'm not going to do anything here, but in the provider, let's do providers is going to be an array, and the array will be app, let's see, app db provider class providers. And then what we'll do is for each providers, as provider, then we will loop through all of these. So we'll just kind of keep a list of those here. We could do it to where like it loops through a directory automatically and grabs each class, but we'll start off simple. So within this, and I'm really sick of these configure indents for PHP. I do not like 4 spaces on my indents. Just don't like it. Okay, there's my dog again, sorry about that. So with this, let's see, the way that I want this to work is basically app is going to be equal to a new provider, and we'll pass app into that. So this build function will also take the application. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I want to do this yet. So we're just kind of spitballing this, get something on the screen. I may change this up some. For one, we could do it to where like each one of these classes, or the providers rather, have their own key, and they basically take that container and set their own So if you look at their, let's see, where'd their dependency container go? They have a container, and then set container. Where's their example of new container? This has my service. New my service. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. So when you add a container to your service, it has to have a name. So in our case, we'd probably call this just DB, right? That way we can use this get DB anywhere in the application to get that. So let's see, return my service settings. Okay, the way we're going to do this is we are going to set up a key in here. So we'll have a public static key, and in this case it's going to be DB. And then what we can do is the constructor will do the work, right? It'll build the service out. So what we actually want to do is we want to grab that key, and we can do that here by doing we can do key is equal to provider key oh yeah, this is just going to be a string. So what we can do is say service is equal to that, and then we can say key is equal to service key, and then we'll say as far as the container goes, app factory set container. Get I think we can do this. I think we can do app set, and then we'll set the key, and then the next thing will be the service like that. So for each one of these, we're going to do something where we instantiate a new object. So let's just, inside this object, let's just put something like I don't know. Just this test is equal to test. I don't know, something super basic and simple just to test this out. We're going to have a couple other issues. This isn't going to work right off the bat. But if we go to our public index file now, we have the app, and it's created here by that. And then what we want to do is run on this. We're going to run our factory. So let's use app providers provider factory, and then down here what we're going to do is we're going to say app is equal to provider factory build, and we'll pass that app into that. And this needs to, at the end of this, this will return the application. So then here, what we should be able to do then is we have this container, and we should be able to say, let's just var dump app get, and we'll get db. And we'll just exit out of that for now. So let's go and look at that now and refresh. So now, yeah, it's saying that we have an uncaught error class, and that's because we haven't set up our autoload stuff. So let's do composer autoload. Let's see. Yeah, so we can use their PSR4 autoload stuff. So let's just grab this real quick. So inside of our composer.json file, underneath the require, or maybe we'll do it above the require, let's paste in autoload. And then what we actually want here is we want to load in, anytime it says app, then we want to load the folder app. And then let's add a couple more while we're here. PSR4. Hang on a second. Why is it? This is a little bit different than I'm used to doing it. This is, let's try composer.json autoload classes and files. So files is an array. This is still the same. I thought PSR4 could also be how to add directories to autoload. Oh yeah, it's just comma separated. Okay, I'm stupid. So with app, we wanted to load that. With DB, we're gonna load our DB folder. What else was there? There's app, DB, and I think that's all we need there. We will have to add files for our helpers later, but for now, let's just see if this makes this work. So we need to run composer install again. All right, so we'll go to the API, and let's just run composer install. Yeah, so this updates our, should update. Okay, well, we're not getting, it actually loaded our factory, so we haven't met an error here, but that's okay. Let's see. So what it was complaining about is right here, this set. It doesn't like that. So new container, container get. Hold on one second, guys. I'll be right back. I'm gonna let my dog out. Just hang tight. Since this is gonna be kind of a long format live, we can all take a break and use the restroom and come back. So I'll be back in a moment. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Had to let the dog out for a minute. Um, so I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna change up uh just a little bit of what we're doing here. Um, not too much. Not too much at all. I just want to change how I'm doing these. I made a mistake. Basically, the way that we have to create. Anyway, we have to create a separate container. So let's create container here. So container is just going to equal a new container. And let's see, the container is not going to come from PSR, but rather, let's see, use DI container. And let me just see, I'm going to look at one of my reference projects here because I don't know why DI. Okay. Yeah, so I think what we should do is we're gonna add some just a couple more packages to our composer file here. So composer require instead of trying to use, I'm gonna use PHP DI. So PHP DI. Okay. And then what we're going to be able to do with that is basically we can call a new container here like that, and we'll kind of set up our own container. So instead of, I was passing in the app to the factory, we need to pass in the container instead. And so what we're going to do there is, let's see. Yeah, we're not going to override the container, or the app. We're going to override the container rather, which makes more sense. Then what we're going to do is, instead of having the app built right here, we're actually going to build the app further down here, and we're not going to use the app factory create. Well, we are, but we're going to do create. They have one called create from container, and we're going to pass our container into that. And then instead of looking at our container, our app get DB, it's our container get DB like that. So then we just need to update just a little bit of how we were doing this. So we're going to pass in container, not app. And then we're going to say container set. And we will return that container like that. And then in here, that should be fine. Okay, so let's go now and try that. Class DI container not found. How can it not be found? I just installed it. Whoops. I think it's like that. Okay, perfect. So now we dumped that container, and there inside the container we got our DB, and DB is an object now, and we just put that public property of test there. And so now this is working as I would expect. So now we can use dependency injection to inject any sort of object we want into our container, and we can simply pass that container around however we see fit later on. So Uh, yeah, happy about that. Let's see if there's anything else here. Mm, while we're here, um, let's go ahead and I'm gonna clean up some of these containers here. We don't need all of this. Now we know that our whatever we put into our providers are going to get built here. Our application gets built here. Um, and I think what I want to do is let's let's do this app, and then we're going to do an add body parsing middleware onto that. That way we have access to our request body on the application. And then I think um, the other thing we're going to do, we're not going to do this routing middleware right here. Let's see. I think we will do the add. Let's see. We'll mess with this a little bit later, so we'll leave this, I think, like that. Let's see what this does now when we run it. Yeah, it just gives us a 404. Okay, that's good. Let's see. We could test it with this since we still have this here. If we do / help, oh, hang on. All right. If we do / hello Curtis, that didn't work. Oh, I know why this didn't work. The other thing we need to do is we're gonna need to have an htaccess set up. So inside of our public folder here, let's add a new file, and we'll call that htaccess. We'll add that to Git, and then what we're going to do is we're going to turn on rewrite engine, and then we're going to write a couple things here. So rewrite condition, we're going to do request file name. So we're going to say if the request file name is not a file, and then we'll do the same thing, and if it's not a directory, then we're going to add a rewrite rule that will send everything to the index.php file, and we'll add some options here to pass along the other parameters. So let's go ahead and try this now. Okay, perfect. So this works exactly like Express. So if you look at we have a get request here that's looking for hello / name, and then there's a function that gets passed in. Inside that function we have request, response, and args. As an argument, this name right here is being passed in, and then we're writing to the body hello, and then we're passing in name, which is why we get hello Curtis here. If I capitalize Curtis, you can see that it capitalizes. So this becomes an argument in that get request, and then it just prints it to the screen. So we're not going to need to do that because we're not going to define our routes in this. I'm going to actually break apart our routes into another file. But I think we can start that process next time. So I'm pretty happy with the progress that we've made. Today we have the beginnings of our API setup, and we're going to do much more work on this. And then what we'll probably actually do is use um, probably going to use Postman to make calls to our API to do the development quickly, so we don't have to do it all in React in this. And then we'll write our React, once we get the endpoints set the way we want in the API part, then we'll switch over and build it out in React, the front end piece. So I hope you guys are enjoying the series so far. I know it's a little bit. Devcast says hi, Curtis. Proud Fantastic says hey, Dad. Hello to both of you. But yeah, we'll continue this in the next video, and I want to get this done fairly quick, so I might be posting here and there just kind of sporadically until this is done. But the recordings will be there, and you can go back and watch anything that you missed. If you guys have any questions ever, I mean, please, I know you're just kind of watching me build this application, which I think is useful, but if you have questions about what I'm doing or how something works, please, I don't want to assume that everyone knows everything, so feel free to ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go. So with that, guys, hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video.